in the last 5 years, I have had a business exit. I've grown and birthed three children.
Oh,
And
congratulations.
I've, thank you. And I've purchased a bakery in my community. So,
We'll circle back to that.
yeah, yeah. And I work full time. So I feel like, in terms of sweat, I put it in every day in different ways. And it's about adaptability and flexibility and being willing to be okay with your life, not being like into these neat little compartmentalized boxes that a lot of people's lives are. And mine is certainly not that.
That Entrepreneur Show, we are back, this time going to Canada. Vincent A. Lancy here, welcoming you back. And this week we have Madeleine Lambert. Madeleine, thank you for stopping by.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
We were doing our usual banter before the show, and we're talking about how a lot of Canadians actually come to Florida during those winter months. How cold does it get in your part of Canada?
Oh, well, honestly, it gets pretty cold. Like I'd say February is the coldest month, and it can get down to like -20, minus
Oh my
25. Yeah, it can get pretty cold.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I traded the snowflakes for palm trees back in 2009. I don't know if I can go back up north, but for today, we're talking about a lot of great things. Breaking the glass ceiling, success stories with this female marketer in a male-dominated industry, her leadership style, how women lead differently and effectively, among many other things, but content marketing and generative AI, this is her business, this is her jam. We're going to talk all about that. Right now, AI is growing and growing and growing rapidly, and these tools make our lives a little bit easier. We're competing with people who may be using these tools and other companies. So we're always looking for a leg up on our competition. We have to take care of our education. So we're going to start there on this business. But what led you to start it going back in time?
Let me backtrack a little bit. So, in 2016, I started a content marketing agency called Content Refined. And so what we did was we created content for people who typically, like portfolio holders that owned a few online assets,
Mhm.
wanted to create a bunch of content that would predictably rank on search engines. So that was kind of our promise to them, was that we'd create really high quality content that had sort of like this formulaic, I guess, like recipe to it that would predictably rank on search engines. So that was what we did. We grew the business. It did really, really well. And then in 2022, we kind of saw the wave of generative AI in some of these tools like Jasper AI, all these like paid tools that we're kind of doing what ChatGPT does now, but we're just sort of starting to plant that seed. We kind of saw the like wave of generative AI coming, and in our agency, we knew that content validation was already hard. It was already the biggest challenge in our industry to basically prove that the piece of content was high quality. And then we saw that this was just going to add that extra massive layer of complexity. So we decided to exit the business in a very timely fashion. And we did quite well off of it. We were really happy with the deal. And then we got in front of the problem in a different way by creating Originality, which is a piece of software that will detect generative AI. That's where we're at now. I'm actually not on the founding team of that. I work as in a leadership role for
Okay.
the business, which I'm happy to do. It's been like really interesting to go from entrepreneur to like employee again. It's been an interesting pivot. I'm happy to do it right now at this stage of life.
You sound like a true entrepreneur, just creating another problem, right? Finding the problem, creating a solution, just always in that creative mode. Did you always want to be in the marketing world as a kid, or where did that passion derive from?
No, not at all. Like I went to university for, law and human rights. So like I was not at all in the marketing world, nor was I really in the entrepreneurship world. Like my parents are my dad's a doctor, my mom was an editor. They never followed that sort of like entrepreneurial journey. So all of this was very, very outside of my like realm of comfort. Kind of like fell into my lap, and an opportunity, it felt right. And yeah, here we are.
I love it as I'm here typing up some show notes as we go. I always like to just find out the why of the guest. My business, it's from my accident. I started writing and podcasting, excuse me, but I always get motivation from others' journeys. One of my favorite parts of being a host on this show is you dive into the early days, the struggles. While we're on these early days, the struggles, you mentioned you had a great exit, a great goal for many entrepreneurs, but I know it wasn't all sunshine every day. Let's talk
No,
about some of the harder challenges that still stick out today.
for sure. So I would say that when the opportunity kind of came up, me and my business partner, he was like definitely more the ideation kind of guy, and I was the sweat and grunt work in the marketing agency. So I kind of like did all of the day-to-day grindy work, and he came to me with a proposition where he was like, you can get into this business from like a sweat equity perspective. And so that was like my first chance, I guess, at sort of not having to front a bunch of cash and just like work my way into a business. And so I put my head down that summer. My partner, husband now, was away that summer for work. And I just put my head down and worked 14, 15-hour days every single day and just like made it work. And I had a lot of clients that weren't happy in the beginning. And that's what helped me to like pivot and make my service better and learn what actually predictably ranks in Google search engine. So I did a lot of research. I did a lot of like data science around what elements actually like push the needle in terms of ranking content on search engines. And then I built a formula around that and then was able to improve my service. But it came with a lot of refunds and a lot of like demoralization and a lot of like abusive emails and so it certainly wasn't all sunshine and roses, and but I wouldn't have been able to get where we got with the business if that hadn't have happened and if I didn't work as hard as I did.
Thank you for, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, and that's it.
I love the work ethic that you're displaying, the hard work that it does take sometimes to get where you're going. Those 15, 16-hour days weren't too long ago for me. They're still big, but just not quite that tail end anymore. I'd love to dive into something where we can start giving some more value to our audience. Your story's been amazing. If someone knows they have terrible SEO problems, they're doing all these things, they don't know if they're ready to hire someone, what's a beginner's tip you can offer to people out there to get themselves started on the right track?
Well, there are so many resources out there, just in terms of even when I was like in the content marketing business, which I'm not anymore, but like I created so many like free guides to try to, to help with my marketing, to try to get eyes on my website. But those were actually really, really useful um, pieces of content that would help people do it themselves. And then they would like quickly realize that, oh, this is actually really time consuming and hard. It's probably easier and more cost effective to just hire somebody else to do it. However, it gave like a very thorough step-by-step understanding of what it takes to have good SEO. So there's like a lot of free resources online. I would say just like maybe follow some sort of influencer in the space and get as many free tidbits as you can from them.
I love it, Bo. I want to plug you a little bit. We'll also plug you again at the end. You mentioned you have some free resources out there. Where can we find those online?
Ooh, so in terms of you can definitely go to like Originality.AI. We have hundreds of blog posts with so many resource posts and easy to access resource posts that you can find there in our AI studies.
Thank you for sharing that, everyone. Get on that website after the show ends. There's a lot of value there. I'd love to talk more and more about this company. We've introduced it a bit now. What are some things that you're proud of with this company? Some of your noteworthy aspects that have been attracting clients where we can get our audience excited for?
Yeah, for sure. So with Originality, I think the biggest thing that stands out for us is, content with integrity. So we are a content validation tool. We know that generative AI is destabilizing the content industry. And so having a tool that you can plug in to just know whether it's AI generated or human written is a big piece to the transparency, to transparency in content creation. You're happy to pay a writer. If you're an agency, you're happy to pay a writer like whatever their going rate is for a good quality piece of content that you know is going to do good things for your website. You're not so happy if that piece of content was generated with a couple of prompts on ChatGPT, and that doesn't seem like a fair transaction. And so what we believe we've built is a piece of software that will help bridge the gap and continue that sort of like trustworthy relationship between writers and clients.
I love it. You can definitely, because as a writer, I can pick out something that was written in ChatGPT. You'll see a lot of posts or things, and you can clearly see that's not a human writing that with just the words in the sentence. And so I love all of that. How is this going to continue to grow? What are you going to continue to roll out?
So we are rolling out different features. So we want to be like one-stop shop, right?
I love it.
Yeah, so we have now we have like a improved plagiarism module. So like I'm not sure if you've ever used Copyscape. It's like the sort of like industry standard for plagiarism detection, but it has a lot of shortcomings. And it's not a like modern tool anymore. It's been around for 20 years. Hasn't been updated very much. So we're trying now to compete with that. And if we can place ourselves as like the only tool that you need for content validation and quality control, then that's a win for us. So we're rolling out features like plagiarism, like grammar, spelling, like fact checking. What else? What else is coming down the pipeline? I think that's it for right now. But yeah, so we want to be the one-stop shop tool stack for editors.
I look forward to seeing that unravel. I obviously have the Grammarly tool that does all the basics for me, but it looks like that yours has a few more features involved in there. So definitely keep me in the loop with that. You've really expanded my mind a lot just because as you see, I've got the pen in my hand. I take notes as I go. I type up the show notes. Do you see yourself ever starting in the sweat equity stage again, that grind work? Because you seem like a career entrepreneur where you're going to go build something new and amazing after this as well. Do you see yourself still able to put in those crazy hours?
So funny that you say that. My last 5 years have been insane. So in the last 5 years, I have had a business exit. I've grown and birthed 3 children. And
Congratulations.
thank you. And I've purchased a bakery in my community.
We'll circle back to that.
Yeah. And I work full time. So I feel like in terms of sweat, I put it in every day in different ways. And it's about adaptability and flexibility and being willing to be okay with your life, not being like into these neat little compartmentalized boxes that a lot of people's lives are. And mine is certainly not that.
Everyone's different and everyone goes about life differently. And in entrepreneurship, there's no textbook for it. So you have to do it your way or it won't be able to keep moving. But you mentioned something out of left field here. She also bought a bakery, a little different than the AI company. Let's dive into first what led you to want to purchase that bakery.
Okay, so it's a bit of a story. So
Please.
we exited the business, the content marketing business. It was the first time that I had like a little bit of extra capital to throw at something. I wanted to see what it was like to operate an offline business. It's always greener on the other side. So I was like, oh, this looks awesome. So this bakery opportunity came up. It's a 150-year-old bakery in the town that my family is from, which is about a couple hours away from here. and it has like the world's best cream puffs donut, like the cream puff donut. And we knew that the person who was like owning and operating it at the time was just going to retire, and that if he didn't sell, he was just going to close it down. So I was like, no way, we need to save the cream puff.
Mhm.
Um, and so yeah, that's what I did. Purchased it actually the week after my daughter was born. So it was a bit of a whirlwind. It was a bit
Oh
all a
my
bit of a blur.
goodness.
Yeah, all a bit of a blur. A lot of late night, middle of the night due diligence on this business because it was the only thing that was keeping me awake at times where I had to be awake anyways. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it was one of those things where I think it was like, oh, the grass is always greener on the other side. Let's see what it's like to purchase an offline business. Um, I have seen what it's like to purchase an offline business. I'm still not convinced that I would like it's going well. It's awesome. Super happy with it. Um, it's a whole different ball game when you're dealing with staffing constantly. So it's yeah, it's definitely greener on the other side. But but I've learned lots of lessons. It's been fun. It's been challenging in a whole different set of ways. But yeah, I've really enjoyed it so far, and I've been able to lean on some of the like skills that I have in the online world as well with like its marketing and stuff. We've been able to you know, this bakery was 150 years old. It didn't even have like a POS system. So I've been able to
Right.
digitalize it and kind of bring it into this age a little bit more. And yeah, the marketing has really, really helped its growth. And so yeah, it's been fun. It's been interesting. Um, if there was an undo button, I might press it, but I'm good. I'm I'm so far in now that yeah, it's all good.
So if you didn't have any businesses yet, but you know what you know now, would you
Oh,
start an online business or an offline business first? I know you, judging by this conversation, you'd start 10 of each at some point, but first business, what would it be and why?
online business because you can do it from anywhere. Yeah, offline business, that's been the biggest challenge is that it's like a physical thing. Like you and it has a product that expires, right? Like,
Right, right, yeah.
yeah, like having a perishable product is a totally different ball game. So, um, yeah, and just like overhead expenses, like there, it's such a like expense heavy um industry that if like
Yeah.
something goes wrong for a month, you're like you're fucked, right? Whereas like in the online world, if something like your expenses usually aren't going to sink you in a month if you
Yeah.
get something wrong, right?
You get a
So,
call from someone working there, hey, this went out, this went out, this broke, the fridge is broken, the whatever,
right.
like it's not just $100, $200. We're talking, you know,
Thousand.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, depending on what it is. Thank you for sharing all this because I think this gives a lot of perspective to our audience of your journey, the grind, and how you're still now expanding it. Everyone out there, don't sell yourself short. Keep looking to grow in new ways. This just seems like an opportunity that presented itself, and you jumped on it. You had that sentimental tie to it. Do I have to try
Totally.
this pup? But I don't think I can get over there as quickly as I'd like to get it.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that like when all is said and done, I'm gonna like look back on this phase of life. Right now, I think that I'm just like having some internal battles with like, okay, maybe this season of life, personally, you know, I have three little kids, like maybe this season of life is too busy to have this much on the go.
Yeah.
However, I just feel like I'm constantly, it's always a push and a pull on like priorities. And there's just like not enough of me um to make it go around, you
Right.
know.
Well,
Um so yeah, I'm like having some internal grapples with myself constantly. However, I know when all is said and done, I'm gonna look back on this like season of life and laugh and be like, oh, I was freaking crazy for taking on that much, but I've learned so much and been able to grow and I'll extract big lessons from this phase for sure.
I think it's very, very important that you're able to now recognize when your cup is overflowing, when you're getting to that point. Because if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of everyone else. And you've got a lot of people that are counting on you. So I don't know how you do it, but you do. You've inspired me, as I said a few times from the show, from AI to physical store to mom of three. I'm now going to lead into one of my favorite questions. It used to be an every episode question, but it's over time. If you could sit down with any entrepreneur, dead or alive, who would it be? And it doesn't have to be at this stage of your life. It could be at a different point of your journey because it seems you've had a few chapters. Whose conversation would be most meaningful?
And this might seem like super textbooky. I think that I would sit down. I would love to have a chat with Neil Patel. I read all of his stuff. I have been like just like a follower of his for the last like 10 years. A lot of the marketing business um that I founded was sort of like based off of some of his like free resources. So he has inspired a lot of like the method at which I've come at business for sure, from a like marketing perspective. So I would love to sit down and have a pint with him.
All right, let's delve deeper. Where would the meeting go down if you could pick the meeting to?
Probably somewhere like Chiang Mai, Thailand.
Why is that location? Like we got to hear about it.
Well, Thailand's like my favorite country. And Chiang Mai has, I think it just came to me because I really want to go to this conference. It's like an SEO conference in Chiang Mai that's happening. Have you heard of it? It's
I have
called
not.
Chiang Mai SEO. Yeah, I'd love to go there. It's in November, and I was just doing some research, and I was like, man, I'd love to go back and spend some time in Chiang Mai and bring my family and just chill out there for a couple months. But yeah, so that's where it would go down.
I think that you'd both be enjoying yourselves and making the most of the conversation. I have to thank you so much for giving some insight into that answer and insight across the whole episode. I had a wonderful time getting to know each step of the journey, and I hope all of you listening or maybe viewing on to some of these clips from the show did too. I got to ask one more time, where's the website and where can we also find you online?
Yeah, so Originality.AI is the website, to our AI content detection tool. And then you can find us at Originality.AI on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and on TikTok.
All right. Thank you for sharing that. Everyone, go check out some of her content online and be sure to say hello. As you learned today, she is an awesome person and a great resource to have, especially if you're in her area. The show is at That Entrepreneur Show on all podcast platforms. Remember to subscribe if you like today's show. We're also on social media at the same name. I am at Vincent A. Lancy. You can learn more about me at vincentalancy.com. The show is brought to you by Coming Alive Podcast Production. Head to comingalivepodcastproduction.com to learn all about what they do. And with that, we are signing off today from Florida all the way up to Canada. Thank you so much for stopping by, Maddie.
Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.